In this video, we're going to be taking a look at kind of a fun little project here. Now, I'm not going to tell you what that project is, but just to follow along, and I think you'll find it quite interesting. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating some artwork from scratch, and this is really a project that anyone can do. Once you've watched the video a couple of times, doesn't take a whole lot of CorelDRAW skills. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a couple of different designs for heat press vinyl. And then we're going to take that same artwork in a separate video and convert it into rhinestones. So let's go ahead and begin this process. First thing we're going to do is use the basic shape tool here in CorelDRAW. And in our basic shapes, we have a heart shape. And we're just going to go ahead and draw out this heart shape. Now, the next tool that we're going to be using is the 3-point curve tool. Now, I have a custom toolbar that I've created, and this is available for download off the website as well. And what we're going to do is we're just going to start drawing. So we're going to grab our 3-point curve tool, and because I have the snap to objects feature turned on, I can actually snap. So I'm going to snap, and watch where I'm snapping here on my heart. Right about there. There is no real right or wrong. Just kind of keep note of where I'm snapping, and then, whatever we want. Let's say I want that right there. Okay. So now the next thing I'm going to do is, again, watch where I'm pulling from, watch what I'm doing, and you'll see this will all make sense and all kind of come together. It's always interesting to see someone demonstrate something that you've never really seen before, and how they actually come about these things. So what we're going to do here is go ahead and snap right to there, and then we'll go ahead and let's pull up a little bit. Not a whole lot, maybe something like that. All right, so now we have 2 lines in place. So now we need another line, and right about the middle point of this. Again, there's no hard and fast rules here, just whatever. Come up here like so, and then we're going to pull down just a little bit like that. All right, now the next line that we want to put in, let's go ahead and put in this line right. Tell you what, let's go doing this one. So this line here, we're going to start about the middle of where this curve for our heart, about the middle, something a lot like that. And then we're going to come down here. Now imagine that this shape has 4 pieces. So we're going to take up about, give or take, about a quarter of that space. And then we'll pull back to something like that. Okay? You're probably wondering what in the world's going on here, but trust me, it'll be fun little process here. All right, so the next thing we're going to do then is we're going to go ahead and add a couple of more lines here. So for example, I am going to go ahead and add another line here, and we can always make changes too. So just kind of follow along, have some fun with this project. Slight curve to that. Doesn't have to be a lot, but a slight curve to that. And then we're going to kind of do the same thing here. So we'll put one here. And again, there's no hard and fast rules here. Just kind of get these lines put into place. And then we need one more coming along here. Love to have that snap function turned on. Now this one I didn't actually snap. So we'll switch to our shape edit tool and we'll pull that so it does in fact snap to that edge, because that will be important a little bit later on. Switch back over here to our pick tool. All right, so things are kind of coming along here. Now the next thing we're going to do, go back to that 3-point curve tool, and let's add a little line segment about, something about like so. Again, snapping to the edge, tiny little bit of arc there, and then we kind of want to do the same thing up here. So we're just going to pull that tiny little curve to the outside of the heart. All right, that looks good. Now, this sweeping arc right here that we put in earlier, let's go ahead and continue that. So right from here, let's go ahead and continue this right on up, and something about like so. And then we're going to take this one. And again, there's no hard and fast rules here, but we're going to take that one and we're going to do something like that. And then finally, our last little bit here, we're going to need to grab a circle and we'll just drag out a little oval shape. And there you go, a neat little design. So we'll just step back and take a look. Now, it doesn't look like a whole lot right now. There is actually one line missing now that I look at this. But there is one line missing, so let's go ahead and slap that into place. So it doesn't look like a whole lot right now, but trust me, it'll all come together here in just a second for you. So isn't that a fun little project? Easy to do. Experiment with just that first step and get your heart with all these different segments like I have here. All right, so now the fun part, filling it all in. There's a tool in CorelDRAW called the Smart Fill tool. And if we click on the Smart Fill tool, you can see our toolbar has changed here. And we're going to go ahead and click in these colored squares. And you'll be able to see this kind of come to life. So we're going to click on that one. And then we're going to click in this one. And then we're going to click on that one. Then what we'll do is, well, let's go ahead and change the fill color in the toolbar and click here. Then let's go ahead and change the fill color. In the fill color, it's just a random fill color. It's not really relevant. So it's purely random, but we'll go ahead and click that, that, and that. And then we'll go ahead and do one more fill color here. Pick a nice green, and we'll do that one, that one, that one, this one, and this one. All right. So now you can kind of see what we have, right? We have our letter L, our O, our V, and our E. And all I did was select one object, hold my shift key down, and clicked on all the other ones. And we can pull those over, and there is our little project here. Now, some of these we can actually weld together. Actually, a lot of these are we're going to weld together. But what I typically will do when I'm doing these types of designs is every stage I save. So we have this multi-segment stage, and then we're going to move into the non-multi-segment stage. So we're going to go ahead and take these three pieces of our letter L, and let's go ahead and weld them together. Let's take all the pieces of our letter E, and we'll weld all those together. And then let's take all of our, so go back to our pick tool here and select all of our parts of our letter V and weld that together. So now you can see how all these letters come to play. So now what we want to do is let's go ahead and make another copy and go to the next phase. And the next phase is adding some type of outline to this. So we'll go ahead and do that. So we'll come in here and we'll choose our outline tool here in CorelDRAW. We'll choose the outline pen tool, and we're going to start with like a 60 pixel outline. That's actually pretty good. I'm actually pretty happy with that. So I'm going to leave that be. Now, we have several shapes selected here. So let's go ahead, go on to the next phase. Now there is one little part here that I don't know exactly how to resolve, and that's this little point here for our letter V. So let's go back into our outline pen tool and take a look at that. Sometimes changing the angle of this, or excuse me, not the angle, but the, so let's, I did the wrong thing here. Let's go set the angle back to 0, but the miter limit. Sometimes modifying the miter limit will go ahead and change the way that looks, and you can see that in fact did change the way it looks. But what we'll do here is we'll just edit this a little bit. Again, we're the artists, so we can make these little adjustments here because I don't want that outline touching the other one. And of course, sometimes that will kind of muck things up a little bit here. but we can use these little control handles to fine tune that. All right. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. Let's go back to our shape edit tool here. And I'm actually going to pull this completely over and make a bigger change to the artwork here. So let's go ahead and grab that node and pull it over this way. And yeah, I think I like that position better. All right. So now we have the outline, we have the modified outline, and then I would probably go ahead and make another duplicate. Always good to do this in stages. So now what we want to do is we want to take all of the outlines of all the individual shapes and we want to make that into a shape. When we go to the view menu right now and choose the wireframe option, all you can see, I don't actually see my outlines. All I see is the original vector shapes. So we do want to go ahead and select all of those. And under the arrange menu, there is an option to convert outline to object. So we'll choose that. And now when we go back to the view menu, let's see what happened here. Go back to enhanced. Let's go back over to our object manager. What did we pick? All right, so we'll go back to the arrange menu. We'll convert outline to object. There we go. Must have clicked accidentally the join curve option, which we didn't want to do. All right, so back up here, back to wireframe here. Now you can see all of the outlines for the individual segments of our vector work. So we'll go ahead and pick on enhanced here. So now what we're going to do is take each one of these segments and we're going to weld them together one by one. So let's weld that one together. That one actually turned out pretty good. Sometimes when we're welding these outlines together, they don't work real well. See that right there? That's what we're looking for. Now, why does that happen? Well, because it just does. So what we'll do is double click on this and you will see when we do these outlines and convert it to an outline, see there's a million, all those little red things, there's a million nodes there. So if we select those and come up here to reduce nodes, you can see they're heavily reduced just by doing that. Let's go ahead and double click on the next segment. Now this next segment here doesn't have a lot of nodes. So now if we weld the two together, you should probably see a better result. So let's go ahead and try it. Weld those two together. And we still get a bit of a problem here. And this is actually good because if we're able to resolve these problems that approach this, there's really nothing that we won't be able to modify here in CorelDRAW. So these things are actually not necessarily a negative in my book because really it's important for you to know how to deal with these situations. So let's go ahead and try and take this object. Now if we look at this object, it doesn't have a ton of nodes. It has more than we probably need. So let's go ahead and double click on it. That takes us into our shape edit tool and we'll go ahead and click on reduce nodes, and that did reduce them fairly significantly. And then we'll go ahead and try and weld it to the original piece. So we'll weld it together and we'll see if it makes any weird look, and it actually doesn't. You can see that if we come in here and we move this to the top, shift page up, you can see that our outline looks really good. So the only remaining piece that is an issue is the outline around the letter V. And sometimes we'll look and see if there's something glaring that it's an issue. We could come in here, we could select that, hit our reduce nodes. At the bottom, you see where it says 57 nodes on 2 subpaths. So if we hit reduce nodes, let's see what happens here. Now we only have 36 nodes. So we did adjust some of the nodes, but let's go ahead and weld the heart shape to the other part of the outline. So we'll select both and weld it together, and there it is. So we don't have that weird thing happening before that we had, and we accomplished that just by reducing the nodes. So now let's go ahead and examine. We could just go ahead and let's go ahead and pull this over and we'll take another look here. Now, depending on how we would actually go and create our shirt, what we wanted to do would depend on how we would set up our artwork. And this is important to understand the various options you might have. if we go into wireframe mode here, let's take a look at what's really happening. If you can understand that. See that line in between these other two lines? What that is our underlying L shape, and our outline is wider, so it's actually covering up the edges of our L. And that can actually be quite useful. So for example, let's give you an example of how we would produce this. Let's say, for example, I'm going to actually make a duplicate of this. Let's say one example on a shirt. Let's go ahead and we'll add a weed box to represent our shirt. Has a white outline. Okay. And then all of these shapes. We're going to go ahead and select all of our shapes. And let's say we want all those shapes to be red. Okay. So what we would do in this scenario, we would go ahead and take all those individual shapes and we would just weld them together. So that when we went to produce this shirt, what you would have, let me show you, what you would have would be this. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and put down our red. So you just have one block of red. That's what you would cut. And then we'll get rid of the block of red and we'll just put the white outline on top of our red block. That would be one configuration. A different configuration, though, would be what if we wanted to create a shirt like this, where we have, let's say, I'm going to go ahead and select my design, and I'm going to add a weed box again. And that weed box color, let's say we're going to put this on a gray shirt. And I want to create the artwork just like you see it here. Well, that becomes a bit more problematic when we're going to set down the individual segments. So I might do this in reverse. I might lay down the black first as my solid segment and these other pieces individually on top. So what we might do is something like this. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and get rid of our blocks. And by doing it this way, we have an outline as a guide for our pieces. So you can see this is what we have right now, but if I right click on this and choose break curve apart, then this is what we would get. So we'll just come in here, delete all those segments. Let's go into wireframe, and you can see this is just one solid piece of black. Okay, so we'll go back to enhance mode, and then over here we have to, let me see if I can explain this in better detail. Let's go back to wireframe because we do have a little prep work to do. Right now, our individual color blocks are bigger, are in the middle of the outline. So watch how we're going to modify that. Okay, because we want this thickness of our outline. But right now our color blocks, see how they're, if we were to lay these on top of our black shape, we would not have this thickness of the outline. Okay, so hopefully that makes some sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to do something different. What we're going to do is we're going to take all of these individual color blocks. So I select one, hold my shift key down, and select the others. Let's group them together. Then I can take my one outline here, my one outline shape, and I'll come into my shaping docker here in CorelDRAW, and I can say, hey, I need to trim these. So we'll come up here to trim. We'll hit trim, and we're going to trim that group of color blocks. Okay? Now, sometimes we have issues, and this is fairly common, and it has to do with nodes. Anytime something weird happens is because of the artwork. CorelDRAW had a difficult time interpreting it. But before we back up, let me show you what we actually just did there. So we'll go back into wireframe mode here, and now you see that center point of that outline. You don't see that shape there. So that shape was trimmed back. So let's go back into enhance mode. So we're not going to panic yet, but we do need to see what happened here with the letter E because something unexpected happened there. And I don't know what that something was. So what we're going to do is we're going to just make a duplicate of it. We've got 3 pieces that are perfect. So actually, let's come back in here and let's delete this. So we have 3 pieces here that turned out perfect, right? And 1 piece that didn't. So again, let's go ahead and select everything. Let's see. Don't know why these are not copying over. So sometimes Corel does some tricky, weird stuff for us. All right, so we're going to go ahead and delete our black outline. So that is how our shapes would go in together. But we need this E. We still don't have that E. So what we're going to do here is let's go ahead and delete the shapes that we don't need, which are those 3. And this actually could be another whole design. In other words, we could just cut the outline, and that might look really cool too. So let's just go ahead and let's change that to red. Let's change our shirt color to black. And see, we could just put that on a shirt and not have all the extra expense of all the different colors for the fill. So that's another option. So let's go ahead and make that another option. So there's another option for a shirt. All right, so we still need to fix this E that we're missing. And the easy way to do that is just to break this apart. If we break this apart, you can't see it, but if we go to wireframe mode, we can delete our outline, and then you'll see there's our letter E. And you'll also see the issue that we had. There's a space there for some strange reason. So that was one of the issues that we were having. So what we can do is just select both parts of our letter E. There's that one. Hold our shift key and select the other one. Okay, so this is actually one. I see. There's that line we're missing. All right, so, there's those 2 lines, and we actually have a function here in Easy Stone. We'll click on Join Paths. That'll join that up, and then I can give this a fill color. Let's go back to Enhance mode here, and there is that letter E. So then the question is, how do we get this positioned perfectly with the others? Just take our E, take our weed box, and I might group it together just for simplicity. And then we'll select this weed box and hit C and E. We'll go ahead and do shift page up. And we will then, tell you what, we'll take this weed box and shift page down. And then that will reveal our E. So then we have to ungroup, and we can delete our weed box. And now our E is perfectly positioned. Little bit of work involved, obviously. Little bit of trickery, but we can get the job done that way. So now we actually have yet another option, don't we? So we don't have to do the outline. That's really weird why it's doing that. It won't select these other 3 objects for some reason. I don't know why. There we go. All right. So what we could do is these 4 objects could be put on a shirt without the outline. So that's another option that we would have. Just the outline, just the fills, leaving that gap. That might be a little bit tricky to actually put that properly on a shirt, because you just have to eyeball it and get all those spacings correct. Whereas here, because we have an outline to go by, it'll be a little bit easier to do. So for example, we could come in here and imagine if we were placing this heat press material, we could eyeball that outline, and then we could grab this piece, and we would, again, we would have to eyeball it. And I'm just using my mouse keys on my keyboard for each piece, but it's doable. That wouldn't be the preferred method, but that will be fairly easy to do. And the material that we use is from Imprints Wholesale. It's called EcoFilm. And the nice thing about that is the pressing in between each colors is only like for a second or 2. So you can see it's doable to overlay those right on top of one another. And I think that's really all the options that we want to share with you. So I hope you learned a little something. I hope you have fun with this. I hope you actually try it. Just draw out these lines, experiment using that three-point curve tool, and you have all these iterations of the different ways we can put this design on a shirt. And then we have another video that we're going to do for you where we're going to take this artwork and we're going to convert it into a really nice looking rhinestone design. But that will be in another video. Thanks for watching.